Hello, everyone, and welcome to another round of a little bit of math and hopefully a little bit of fun. Hopefully this makes a little sense to you. If not, there's many resources and many places you can go. Pause, repeat, skip ahead, do whatever you'd like. And let's get into some geometry. And today we're going to discuss circles, as I'm sure you already are aware. If I could draw a perfect circle, I would, but in the interest of time and just to have you understand what's happening. A circle is simply the point of all points equidistant from another point. Now, if I just totally lost you, all that means is that this line right here, this line is just all the points that are the same distance from this one right here. So if I've got this right here, point, all the points that are the same distance of that, let's say that it's of like 8, well, it'd be right here. There we go. And if I just keep running, if I wrote every single point, I would eventually end up with the line. That's all a circle is. And I said it was 8 away. Let's say it's 8 miles. All the points, the same distance, ugliest circle ever from a point. But you all know it as a round shape. Just know that the uniformity of it, or one of the things that makes it so great, is it's all the points that are the same distance from a point. That's all. Well, what do we know about circles? Well, let's see. We've got ourselves a center of a circle. We have right here this distance right here that is from the center to the outside, so the outside ring, or to all the points are the same. That distance is called the radius. We sometimes think of it as halfway across the circle. So however you want to think of it in your mind, from the center to the outside, I'll go ahead and say that it's halfway around the circle. Halfway through the circle. And it's always a distance, it's a length. And there we are. Well, what if I have the distance from the center to both sides right there? What if I have that distance right there? Not a Pokemon ball, it's not a sphere, it's just a circle. What is that distance? Well, that one is called the diameter, all the way across. So the diameter is all the way across the circle through the center. All the way across the circle. This is kind of the smaller word, and it's the smaller distance. The diameter is a bigger word, and it's a bigger distance. Well, what about this other word we're going to get called the circumference? The circumference, this it's like circumnavigating. We can come up with a whole lot of meanings, but it's the distance around the circle. So around the circle. So for example, if I started right here, start at that point right there, the circumference, the circumference is all the way around the circle. What's the perimeter? When we talk about the perimeter of a shape, it can be seen as the perimeter of a circle, all the way around. So those three distances, it's the longest word and it's the longest distance. So we've got the shortest word and the shortest distance, the next longest word and next longest distance, and the longest word and the longest. If you ever get confused and you can't remember which one is which. Well, we've got this symbol here, right here, that you've seen before, and it's a letter of the Greek alphabet. It's the letter pi. But we've come to use pi to determine something. And what is that something? Well, let me tell you. That pi is this. When I've got a circle, I've got a length or I've got a diameter right there. Pi simply means how many times will this length fit around the circle? If I took this diameter out and I placed it right here and I wrapped it around and it goes to about there, and then I take another one and I put it right there and I wrap it around, it goes to about there. And then if I take this distance right here and I wrap it around, goes to about there, it almost makes it all the way around. This diameter almost makes it around. It makes it around 3 times. Oh, and it's a little bit more. The amount of times it goes around is it goes around 3.1415926, and it just goes on forever. That's how many times the diameter will go around the circle. And that's what pi is. That's what pi means. The circumference of a circle, the distance around it, is simply pi times the diameter, or the diameter around it 3.14 times. That's what it means. So when we have problems or we're looking at what is pi, this is how many times it goes around. Or I can say it this way as an equation. The circumference equals pi times the diameter. Because the diameter is just 2 radii put together, another way you can look at it is pi times 2 radiuses. We end up saying 2 pi r, but it's the exact same thing. 2 radiuses is the same thing as the diameter. So the distance around a circle is simply pi times the diameter, or 2 times radius times pi. So if I've got a circle here and the diameter is 6, what is it? Let's say 6 centimeters. What is the circumference? Well, the circumference is simply pi times the diameter, or 6. So I get my calculator and I figure out what it is. I've got myself 6 times, and then where's the pi button? Right here. 6 times pi equals, and 6 pi is one way to say it. And if I want to write it differently, I hit the enter, but the other way to equal it, they multiplied 6 times 3.141, and I get that. So the circumference of this circle ends up being 18.8, it's about 8.5. The same thing. We want to find a distance around a circle, that's how we do it. And that works for any circle. If I've got a circle that's, let's say the radius is 25 inches, then the circumference, and I can use the radius equation, so 2 times pi times the radius, 25, and I can figure out what that is. You know that 2 times 25 is 50, but just for simple purposes, 2 times pi times 25, and that tells me how many inches around it is. It's 50 pi. Or when I push this button to give me a number without pi in it, 157.08 is about what that is. 0.08 inches. So to find the circumference, you just multiply pi times the distance, because it's just 3 of them. It's about 3 of them. I multiply it and I'm done. Or in this case right here, it's 2 of the radiuses, that's 50, and it's about 50, it's about 3 50s, which is what that is. So that's the main equation for circumference. What about the area of a circle? On this one, what it's asking, the area is what is inside a circle. I just drew the radius for fun. What is the area inside a circle? And we'll talk more about area of all shapes, but it's basically asking how much space is inside there. The area of a circle is simply pi times the radius squared. That just means radius times radius. So area is pi times the radius times the radius. That's the same thing. I could go into the proof if I had time. If I wanted this video to be 20 minutes long, I could explain why that is. But it's just simply if a radius is, say, 5 kilometers across, and to find the area of that circle, the area is pi times the radius times the radius. The calculator will take care of that for us. Pi, whoops, pi times 5 times 5. And that equals 25 pi, or 78.054. So the area of this one is 78.54 kilometers. Now, because we did the radius times itself, or kilometers times kilometers, we write kilometers squared, because we did the radius times the radius, or kilometers times kilometers. So we write the kilometers word twice. That means, there's 78 squares in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can map it out. It's 78.54 of these square kilometers, or these kilometers squared. I can map it out, and you can see that there's 78.54 of them. Area means squares. How many squares are there? And we'll talk about that more later, but I can introduce it now. So there's the area. And you might see situations like this. I'm going to work backwards on two. What if I've got a circumference, and I say that the circumference is 64 inches. What's the radius? Well, you can just work it backwards. The circumference is 2 times pi times radius. So let's see, I put the 64 right here. So 64, that's the circumference, is 2 times pi times the radius. And how can I figure out the radius? Oh, well, I can just divide by the 2 and divide by the pi. I can undo on the equation. So r equals 64 divided by 2 pi. And I just type that in the calculator. I'm moving around an equation just like we did back in September. So 64 divided by 2 pi, and that equals, so the radius is 10.18. We're doing inches. You just put the numbers that you can into this formula, into this equation, and then solve for the variable. And you can do the same thing with the area. If I tell you that the area of a circle, the area, let's say there's 28 miles squared in this circle. So what's the radius? Well, let's see, area equals pi r squared. So the 28 goes in place of the area. So 28 is pi r squared. So to get this r squared by itself, I divide by pi. So 28 divided by pi. Get this number, so I get 8.9 is about what it is, equals r squared. Now, how do we undo a squared? We'll do more with squareds next year, just by way of introduction. The way to do the squareds is you find the square root. See this squared? It's the opposite of that squared button. It's this square root. So I push this button. I want second square root of 8.91. I could go out as far as I wanted from this number. And then I hit enter, and it tells me that it's 2.98. So the radius, when I take the square root, is 2.98. And there you have it. So you can work these equations backwards as well once you know the formulas. But the point of today, the main message of today is to understand this equation, the area of a circle, along with these equations, the circumference of a circle, which basically tells you that pi is how many times around a circle the diameter will go. A lot of stuff. I know it's a long video, but hopefully you understand circles a little better based on watching this. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.